well, me and my siblings grew up in the Medford projects. Really rough neighborhood, like drug addicts, violence, like that whole thing. Like it was just really, really bad. Just such an abusive environment in general. Both my parents were drug addicts and alcohol addicts. My dad was very, very abusive, physically, emotionally, all of it. Like I can remember being 5, 6, 7 years old, making food for my baby brother, walking him to school, doing things like that. Well, we wound up in one foster home, and they were Christians, and they forced everybody, all the foster kids, not forced, that sounds bad, but one of the rules of living in the house was, if you're gonna live in this house, like, you gotta go to church. And so, like, that was one of the house rules, and so we all went to church, and first time I had ever been to church really in my life, and my first experience with it at all. So it was all new, all very weird. I wasn't a believer in God as a child. And certainly after my experiences, I had no desire to be like, oh yeah, this God loves me. Like, yeah, sure he does. Like, my dad at this point was completely out of the picture, in and out of prisons, completely out of the picture. And my mom, again, still a heavy drug user, every drug under the book, but we weren't allowed to see her unless we had supervised visits with the state. And so she decided to start going to the church to get like extra visits in or whatever. And my foster mom would always invite her to the house afterwards to have dinner and stuff like that. But my foster mom just really, really encouraged her to keep coming back to church and keep eating with us at the house. And eventually, he gave her life to Christ. I forget how old I was, but I basically got to like a breaking point. I was just completely done with the way life was, and I was just so angry. I had anger issues out the waz, and like depression issues, suicide issues, and I'm still a kid. And I remember getting in a huge fight with my foster mom, and like throwing things, acting like a little, I don't know, trying to be a thug or whatever. Like, and I just remember breaking down crying. And I mean, I literally put this woman through hell. Like, when I look back and think about it, I'm like, I do not know how she didn't like just smack me. Like, I disrespected her so hard and just like, just went off on her. And she was just so nice and so calm and just so loving. And she just kept telling me, after our huge blowout, she started to talk to me about Jesus, which now in retrospect, I'm like, that's amazing. How did she do that? And I'll just be like, I'll talk to him tomorrow. But like immediately after, she started talking to me about Jesus. Started going to church, went to the youth group, did all the youth group stuff, led worship teams, small groups, did all that. Went to school for biblical studies, but I could honestly say that I didn't start actually being a Christian, and not just a label Christian, but actually trying to follow Christ and trying to act like him until my sophomore year. I felt like very, on fire, and I was very, very joyful. And it was at that moment that I realized that like I'm as far away from God now in my second year of biblical studies, in my joy, my lack of depression. I'm as far away from God now as I've ever been in my life. And God just like opened my eyes of like a whole different reality of what being a Christian actually is. And like that experience, I would call it a conversion experience, because I went from calling myself a Christian to wanting to be like Christ. And now being in ministry and seeing the dedication it takes and would require of me, and for others it's death, that it's a very serious, not covenant, but proclamation you're making, that from henceforth, I am a Christian, no doubt in my mind. This is the life I want to live for the rest of my life. I'm dedicated to it, not just when things are good, but when I'm thrown in jail and my family is taken from me and everything is stripped from me because of this belief. if everything in my life was destroyed because of it, would I still hold it with as much worth, if not higher? And I've finally come to a place in my life where I've been able to answer yes. If everything was destroyed in my life and God was the only thing I had, I wouldn't be just content, I would be overjoyed. And I want to be baptized to not, put a stamp on it, but just to do what baptism is for, of, okay, you're clean now, like, go ahead, it's washed away, now start, now do what you're proclaiming you're going to do. Like, that's why not only do I want to be baptized, I need to be baptized. I need to have a starting point in my relationship with God, a legitimate relationship with God.